Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whenever you're listening or watching to this episode. Welcome to the third episode of my podcast, The Light Program. And so in the last episode, we looked at the Enneagram types, the 9 of them. That's great, what they meant. And in future episodes, we will go through each of the types in turn. So you'll be able to better identify which type is you, which type you resonate with the most further down the track. But before we can do that, we need to cover off a couple of essential aspects of the Enneagram. And that's what we're going to do today. And we'll start with wings. And I know you're thinking chicken, but it means something totally different as part of the Enneagram. Sorry to disappoint. And then we'll talk about stress and success. Specifically, how to navigate stress, how to capitalize on your success drivers, how to deal with people under stress, and just to understand how this tool shows us both our shadow, which leads to our sabotage, and our strengths and greatnesses that lead to our success. So that's what we're up to today. I do know some of you want me to charge right in and do the individual Enneagram types, but we need to cover these things first in order to understand the types better, because just as in a star sign, everybody knows whether you're a Sag or a Taurus or Capricorn or whatever. And that's your star sign, that's your sun sign. But no one sign is better than any other, except of course Sagittarius. I always say that. We have the most fun. But that's your sun sign. And you've also got a moon sign, and you've got a south node and a north node, and all different planets holding all different energies in all different houses. And they give a flavour and colour to your horoscope, to your astrological chart. And in the same way that there's a flavour and a colour in your astrological chart, there's a flavour and a colour in your Enneagram type. And the part of this is the wings. And these are the two signs on each side of your type. So, for example, an achiever, number 3, has on each side a 2, which is a helper, and a 4, which is an individualist. Or perhaps sometimes they're called a tragic romantic. So when the 2 wing is strong in a 3, in an achiever, 2 is the helper. They're people orientated, they're collaborative, they're networkers. And so a 3 with these aspects will be an achiever, but a people person as well, and somebody who creates success through leveraging their relationships. Now, on the other side, the 4 is an individualist. So a 3 with a 4 wing, you expect that to bring out introspective and creative aspects of the achiever. So that's how wings work. They bring out aspects of your main type. The second thing I'd like to talk about is stress and growth. We don't sit in our type all the time. Under a lot of pressure, under a lot of stress, we take on the unhealthy traits of another type. And those types are governed by the diagram. So, for example, you'll see in the diagram, a peace-loving 9 will take on the traits of an unhealthy type 6. And they'll become anxious and hypervigilant and untrusting and test other people out. That's how a 9 behaves under a lot of pressure. It's not something to feel bad about, this stress thing. It's like an early warning system. And if you're opening it, if you're noticing it, then you're getting a message that you're under stress, that you don't feel safe, and you may be able to make some adjustments to what you're doing or your environment that can take the stress away. Then on the other hand, when you're successful, you're integrated, we go in the other direction. And on this diagram, a type 9 will go to a type 3 achiever. Isn't that wonderful? A peaceful achiever. And in fact, types 3, 6 and 9 form a little triangle, and they go to each other in stress and growth. Not all types sit in a nice little triangle like that. But when successful, the 9 becomes like a 3 and an achiever. And we can always ask ourselves a similar question. Am I acting normally? Am I acting out of my stress? Am I leaning into my growth? Is my behavior changing as a result of that? So I'm going to move on, and I'm going to talk about working with the shadow side of other people. Aren't they always a problem, other people? We're going to work with the shadow side of other people, because under stress, people are not their usual selves. Now, some become aggressive, and that's usually the first stage of an 8 under stress. They will try and push and dominate and distract and shout and be loud. And maybe you can think of somebody in public life that does all that. There are a few, particularly amongst political leaders around the world. It seems to help to be an 8 if you want to rise to the top in politics, and for that matter in many fields. But when you're faced with that aggressive behaviour, and it's obvious the other person is under stress, your best strategy is not to go toe-to-toe with them, not to match their volume. Remember, they're acting out. Remember, they're under stress, and so what you have to do is hold a firm boundary and bring them back and transition them out of stress. And definitely don't take the bait. Don't join in the stress. Don't join in the pity party. Now, I know it's difficult when it's your boss, but whatever you can do, you do it. And I was thinking about this, and I thought at times that I wish I could have known that and done that. And then I remember that I actually saw other people model that behaviour of holding their ground, refusing to be dominated, being reasonable, and calming down the aggressive person. It's quite interesting to observe when that happens. The second way people react under stress is for those people that are driven by the need for compliance or the need for duty, like the number 2, the helper. That's a classic example. And under stress, they become critical. They become self-critical. They become victims. They become anxious. So the best way for dealing with them is to do 3 things. Number 1, acknowledge them for who they are. Number 2, acknowledge them for their efforts. Number 3, help them to feel seen and heard and secure. One of the sources I was reading to put this together said to validate them. And that's okay, provided you're not validating any dysfunctional behaviours. The key remains to make them feel heard and acknowledged, and focus on that and help them move forward. And the final way people react under stress is by withdrawing, and that's typical for a 5. That is my type. And I'm smiling at the irony here. I'm recording this, I'm under a little bit of stress. And under stress, I have this tendency to withdraw. And I've also got a stage direction to lean in. Anyway, when I'm under stress, I shut down, I retreat, I disengage. And the way to handle this, well, first of all, what not to do is to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. If you keep pushing me, I'll just retreat further into my shell. And believe you me, it is a very deep shell. Controlling people still try and do this anyway. That's how they work. That's what they've always done. But if you really want somebody that's behaving in a withdrawn way to shift their behaviour, then you have to give them the space, let them know the doors are open, and let them know they'll be safe if they come out. So all this from the Enneagram helps us understand not only how to deal with other people, it's also very useful for us to understand our sabotage patterns, our success patterns as well, and why we feel what we feel, And we will come on to that as we go through the types, which we'll do in the next sequence of episodes along this particular theme. So what we've seen in this episode is that we're not all stamped with exactly the same personality depending on our type, and that will be rather boring and rather weird. Rather, we've been given additional gifts, additional aspects, our wings, to a greater or lesser extent, and it's our job simply to make the most of what we've been blessed with. So here's a thought and an informal challenge for the week to help integrate this, if you're up for it. And don't we all love a challenge? I know you do, really. Just watch out for people in your life whose behaviour is challenging to you, and begin to ask yourself, why are they under stress? What stress? What is it behind that's making them behave that way? So, coming up in the next episode, or at least the next episode on this theme, and I'll probably do one or two on different themes before I come back to the Enneagram. In the next episode on this theme, we'll start our journey around the Enneagram types. Now, most books and teachers start at 1 and work their way all the way round to 9 in numerical order. And I think that's a silly thing to do. I go in a very different order, and you can find out what that is next time. So please, if you like this video, this podcast episode, please like, subscribe, give it some social media juju. And if you have some questions, feedback or comments, you can connect with me either on YouTube at youtube.com at Vincent G Melling/posts, or on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/Vincent G Melling podcast. And I will pop those links in the episode description. So looking forward to seeing you next time. And wherever you are, have a great day, have a great evening, have a great week. And never forget, in the immortal words of the preeminent German writer and polymath Goethe, Magia ist, an sich selbst zu glauben. Wenn du das kannst, kannst du alles schaffen. I'm sorry, I need to practice my German at every opportunity. One of my grandchildren's growing up in Vienna. And if you're not in the far-off future where you have telepathic translation or just Babelfish, in English that is, magic is believing in yourself. If you can do that, you can make anything happen.